The problems that exist in the world today cannot be solved by the level of thinking that created them. Education is what you're left with after you forget everything that you learned in school. So the populist thinking is that Africa has a population explosion problem, that this is a major problem for Africa. Europe is 3 times more densely populated than Africa. Africa has 60% of the non-cultivated arable land in the world. So is the issue population explosion, or is the issue governance, leadership, health and education? Because if you get those things right, Africa doesn't have a population crisis. This is the I. You know, we're all working individually on our computers. But in a globalized world, if we take the Arab Spring and the G20 protests and the G8 protests, the I went to we. I mean, people may not have protests together who were next door neighbours, but the I became we, and that increased transparency, become a stronger democratic voice, even if it's not everybody together in their village. So what is Futures thinking? It's a multidisciplinary approach to examining transformations in all major areas of social life. It probes beneath the surface of received opinion, and this is what we have to keep coming back to. Not taking information and data for granted. It's not about predicting the future, it's about preparing for the future and possible futures.
The steps that Niamh has put here. First, brainstorm, then you cluster, and then you validate.
Some examples of Futures Wheel topics that shall be looked at.
But because of better access to information, we also have the issue of knowledge explosion. And knowledge explosion can also have a negative effect where we have the inappropriate access to inappropriate information. Under the infrastructure aspect, we also looked at the e-waste problem, which is really still a big problem. So it will, of course, increase as an issue. We'll have issues of plagiarism, and I think we are aware of that, which is negative. Then we go to improved communication as an impact. We have, of course, collaboration and better sharing of information. The last one, cost reduction. We looked at it in 2 aspects: the teacher recruitment aspect, and the issue of print material books. There'll now be e-books, and physical classrooms may also contribute towards cost reduction. Thank you very much.
This is Group 3, and our presentation is on majority of national innovation systems in Kenya are driven by PPP, that is public-private partnerships. We more or less lean towards the positives, and I think we have only one negative. So one of it is that there will be a better relationship between the public and the private sector, which will lead to reduced duplication of efforts in innovations. And this thereafter leads to a lot of larger projects, as we have seen in this country. We have the Konza project. We have larger projects now of a bigger scale, as opposed to smaller projects here and there. Then on the downside, there are conflicting mandates in that the government would like to provide services to the citizens, whereas the private sector would want to make profits. So we found that there would be a conflicting mandate of the two, which again leads to poor service delivery and therefore low living standards of the population. Then we will have a higher skilled database. That is, the number of people with skills in PPP will be more, and therefore there will be efficient technology transfer for the public and the private.
And let's look at the positives. You notice access to services, in which case you find we'd have e-services that would be available. That would include internet services that would be available in the homes, in the rural areas, in urban areas, in which case you'd have improved service delivery. That incidentally would lead to reduced poverty. Okay, let's look at communication. With high-speed broadband, there's improved communication, cheaper communication between individuals, between communities, and this has got a lot of positives. And that one, again, is linked to improved performance at places of work because you find devices that we use to communicate today, mobile, handheld, and related devices would improve service performance, places of work, and that would lead to improved service delivery. That has got its advantages and disadvantages.
Time.
And that we mentioned about changing culture. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.